Hi, today I want to talk about my history that led up to my diagnosis with Asperger syndrome just about 2 years ago. Um, so there were sensory issues when I was younger, notable ones. They were generally cast off as just being a part of my character and not necessarily pathologized by my family. Um, After that, and it was basically I had lifelong insomnia. Um, not due to anxiety. At least I don't think it was due to anxiety. Then it had more to do with an active imagination. My mind just keep on running through visual images and ideas, and they were kind of sleep inhibiting. It would take me hours to fall asleep, usually something like 4 a.m. Um, there's almost this sense of dysphoria at 3 or 4 a.m. Things got very, very dark and gloomy, and it felt like I hear descriptions of ketamine trips or dissociative hallucinogens, and just that feeling of emptiness, that K-hole sensation. I felt that my insomnia is exactly like that kind of half-aware state where you're just kind of nowhere at all. And I definitely wasn't sleeping. My eyes were open this time. So there were things like that, but I never really thought they were weird. I thought everyone went through those kinds of sensations or things like that. And then in grade five, I guess my parents knew something was up because I wasn't doing well in school. My attention span was quite short, and I would spend a lot of time studying science. Like my grades were very up and down. I would be failing math and getting top in my class in science. Um, so when I got back my like report cards at the end of the year, my school used to plot the grades like on a XY axis, and it would look like a lightning bolt, up, down, up, down, up, down. It was not steady. You're supposed to have a line that's slowly increasing, right? You're supposed to do moderately okay, and then by the end of the year, you're supposed to be doing well. But it didn't really matter for me. It was just up, down, up, down. There was no pattern for me. It was so. My parents knew I had a learning disability, learning difficulties. I was terrible at math. I still need to count on my fingers now. I get terribly anxious when someone wants me to do math. Like if someone says 9 plus 7, I had to count on my mental fingers 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It's like I have math dyslexia. Like I can't memorize that equation and just see the answer. I know simple ones like 4 plus 4 is 8. And I use kind of synesthesia for that because two fours are green, so 4 plus 4 green equals orange. I know that one nicely. Also, 2 plus 2 is yellow, and 4 is, once again, green. So, anyway, um, sorry. So in grade five, I got a psych assessment, which the school paid for, but my parents requested it and my teachers requested it. So basically, it's a psychological assessment, and then they test for various mental abilities, which do you have difficulty in some of these. Like they identify your strengths and weaknesses. So after that kind of determined, yes, I had some difficulties with theory of mind, with putting stories in order. Of course, the funny part is I remember all the tests and I remember the order that they were given in, and I remember how the room looks and how like my memory and is perfect for it. I could tell you what I did in the psych assessment. I could tell you what was difficult for me, but I actually couldn't do many of those tasks. Some I did well and some I didn't. Um, so so I still struggled from, let's say, grade five onward. I was already getting tutors at this point, once a week, twice a week, personal tutors, and my parents didn't really do anything. They didn't really contact any doctors until it was in grade six or seven. I told them just one day randomly that I hated myself, and that I think that was the sign for them. So we went to my pediatrician, and she suggested this psychiatrist. Was my first psychiatrist, and so I went to him in grade 6. And I was telling him about my depression, and he attributed that to me not doing well in school. I don't know if he attributed that or my parents kind of nudged him, saying, here's a psych assessment. Like, what do you think of it? Basically, thought that. So he diagnosed me with ADHD. So I got diagnosed at 11 years old. So he thought that the depression or whatever it is was secondary to ADHD because of the various challenges of ADHD. And he put me on Dexedrine, 30 milligrams. I was on that for I was on that for about a year, and after that he switched me to the new drug Adderall, which at that time was considered stronger. It is stronger than Dexedrine. It's a racemic mixture of dextroamphetamine and levoamphetamine, which means there's kind of the two enantiomers act differently. The two isomer, whatever the word is, I don't care. So that kind of marked a new phase of my life. That was the phase of being recognized as there was something wrong with me. That now I'm going to doctors. Now we're starting medication. So as soon as I said I hated myself, actually my parents ignored it for a week, and I was really surprised. And the next day, of course, I don't say anything. Then a week later, I said it again, and then finally they. So that marked a new phase of my life, saying that to my parents, and basically, I went to camp, and I was nuts. See, I was ADD, not ADHD. Although I was impulsive, I wasn't hyperactive. But I don't know what it is, but I felt the need to live up to the full diagnosis of ADHD, because at that time ADD and ADHD got shuttled into one diagnosis. So before the ADHD type is now mixed with the ADD type, the non-hyperactive type. So as soon as they changed it up, I thought, all right, now I have this new label, I better start becoming hyperactive, right? I was the inattentive type, and then immediately after I heard about the news, I was a hyperactive type. It just shows you how that stuff can influence me back then. So at camp, I was insane. I was nuts. I was like running. Like I ran fast. I used to call myself the Silver Bullet. It's named after a chairlift in Blue Mountain, or the ski place. I don't know why it stuck in my head, but that was the Silver Bullet. And I would run really, really fast. And that's kind of how I was friendly with kids, because I just didn't give a crap of what they thought of me. I was just hyperactive like crazy. So I wasn't, being quiet in a corner. I was just completely outgoing and didn't give a crap what people thought. And I got some friends that way. So I was still on the Adderall at this point. And then I don't know what made me stop. You know what I think made me stop? It was my doctor started getting the reports of the cardiac side effects, that people, even kids, were having heart attacks on high doses of Adderall. So I think it was actually briefly banned in Ontario, at least for some time. And basically, so we stopped the medication then after that, because of that scare. And after the ban was over, after Adderall was now available again in Canada, I forget what the story is of that. I went back on Adderall. That's the point. I didn't go back on Adderall, so I stopped that Adderall. It was just because of that roadblock with the legal status of it. So I was still going to the doctor for a while, on and off. We tried a non-stimulant, Strictera, within the first year of university. But I started getting seriously depressed in grade 10 and grade 11. And this is where I spoke previously about the whole bipolar business. So at first I thought it was major depressive disorder. Then I thought it was bipolar, and just like how ADHD was now shuffled in, or ADD was now shuffled into a single disorder, I started exhibiting the symptoms of bipolar disorder. I mentioned in the previous video how I thought they were really ups and downs. Yes, I was seriously depressed. I thought the ups were where it was just that kind of hyperactiveness I used to get from special interest. So I thought it was bipolar, so I was going back to the same doctor, and we were trying mood stabilizers, olanzapine, Risperdal, um, lithium, and yeah, so after that whole time period, which ended with that hospital, that psych ward visit that I spoke about, after that came grade 12 and first year university, and this is where my social anxiety got way out of hand. I imagine before I kind of sublimated all my anxiety into exhibiting these disorders. I mean that was the intent, that I need to get recognition that something's wrong with me. So why not be recognized as having these disorders because they seem similar to me. Um, but after I started getting more stabilized and actually becoming more myself, then the social anxiety started coming in, which is really there all along. But it's actually being identified that I don't want to go to parties, I don't like school, I don't like being around strangers. Close friends were fine, but it got worse and worse, and that's when the dissociation started getting bad. Grade 12, first year university, is the dissociation. There were hints of it in the psych ward. I read my journals. It keeps on saying everything feels like a dream. Everything feels like a dream. I would see that kind of motif a lot. But then I found depersonalization disorder, and that was the new thing. Now I'm latching onto that. At this point, I stopped telling my parents about things, because to them I was the boy who cried wolf. One of the two biggest things was I faked Tourette's at camp, where I had a shoulder twitch for about 2 weeks, and I kept up this act for 2 weeks, because because Tourette's syndrome included impulsivity, and I was impulsive, so I thought I had Tourette's. So I started having a tic. So that was proven to be false and faked. I believed it at the time, but I also knew I was faking. And before that, when my eyes would kind of go dim with the sensory overload, I thought I needed glasses. So I knew that this kind of really didn't have to do anything with glasses, that my vision was very clear, but I blurred my eyes. I kind of half crossed them, and when you almost cross your eyes, if you could do it on demand, things go blurry. So if you actually do that and you're at the doctor and you start converging your eyes like that, it'll actually look like you need glasses. So I figured this out. So I did that at the doctor's office, and they saw it, but they didn't, because it was changing, it wasn't even, so they didn't know what was wrong. So they referred me to an ophthalmologist at a children's hospital. I mean, these things go far, right? Like for like a little kid who's faking something, like I got in some interesting places. Once again, I wouldn't call it faking. I wanted a label. I wanted to fit in somewhere. And I knew something was up, and that I was very different from other people. So I needed something to separate me from others, just so I could say, this is what's wrong. So so my parents, apparently the guy at the hospital said, "All right, we'll try glasses at this prescription." What I didn't know was my parents, behind my back, went to the doctor and said, "We think he's faking. So why don't we try giving him glasses with plastic lenses with no optical correction?" So basically, just two pieces of plastic in front of my eyes. They're not curved at all. Your vision would be completely normal when you look through them. So we went ahead and got the glasses, and of course, miracle. I saw, look, I could see now with these plastic lenses, and I got bored of them within a day or two, because I didn't like people noticing, saying, "Oh, you got new glasses." I don't know what I was thinking. Of course, people were going to say that. So my parents told me that, if you wear glasses for a short period of times, it'll actually bend your lens for you, and then you don't have to wear them again. So I latched onto that idea, and then 2 days later, those glasses were returned back to the place because we didn't need them anymore. Got our money back. There you go. So there was that escapade. So yeah, so through the years, my parents kind of built up that idea, and I got more and more anxious that I wasn't going to be taken seriously in the future. So that's when I kind of closed up. That's when I shut down from telling my parents anything, because now I knew I'm going to take matters into my own hands, and I'm not going to let them influence me. Because sometime in the future, I said to myself, there's something that's going to be real. Like, I'm actually going to get diagnosed with something, and I want to keep it to myself. I want it to be valid. So I thought depersonalization was the valid, and I really did exhibit all those symptoms. I just didn't think it was secondary to sensory overload. So I was going to my current therapist and doctor for this depersonalization disorder. I got referred to this doctor from a previous ADHD doctor, and so it's probably about 2 years. No, a year. I was latched onto this depersonalization disorder. I wasn't faking it. This was genuine. Like I said, I learned to just not tell anybody about it. But yeah, so first and second year university. So I went home every week to this psychiatrist and therapist. They work in the same office for this depersonalization disorder, and we did CBT and all the stuff like that. And when I read my journals from that time, it describes me in light of depersonalization disorder. Nothing else. I don't talk about school. I don't talk about how everything's going. I'm viewing everything through the depersonalization disorder lens, and I feel like everything else that's going on in my life is totally extraneous. I went to this doctor because I'm dealing with depersonalization and nothing else, and that's what I want to be working on. You know, my CBT records are like felt out of it today, or things look 2D, two-dimensional. I didn't even mention the setting. I'm just describing symptoms after symptom, and that's it, right? It's just symptom. No life situation. No, how many friends do you have? No, are you socially anxious? Nothing. It was just all that. And slowly but surely, I started writing journals in the stream of consciousness variety. They started questioning my life. And I think a big step was I got put on lamotrigine or Lamictal for the depersonalization or the dissociation type feelings, and that seemed to be helping, but I was still going to the therapist. And so after I was better with the dissociation aspect, then I started writing genuine journals because still things were uncomfortable for me. I started later investigating this whole anxiety thing and the cause of my anxiety. Where does this come from? So I started writing journals that were based on my daily thoughts, the stuff that goes on underneath the surface, what's happening at school, what's happening with my roommates and friends, and and mood and everything like that. And I became somewhat fascinated with these journals. They became kind of my outlet, and I started writing very ambiguous. It took on a avant-garde like feel to it. Like I really started delving into the past and into how my mind works, and eventually just noting differences between me and someone else. And my therapist said, he says there's some obsessive nature to this. There's something. He says it's very Aspergish. That's the term he used. It's very there's an Aspergian quality to the writing, and it makes sense with the rest of the stuff that I was going through. And immediately I denied it because, of course, I've come across Asperger's many times, just as I came across bipolar and depersonalization. I knew everything. of course, I read up and down about Asperger's, and I always found it a detestable syndrome. I always found it something that says, ugh, not me, not me. Like I just changed the page. Just nope, nope, definitely don't feel that. Nope, 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 no social awkwardness. Nope, totally denied. No social anxiety. And so when he mentioned it, immediately I was like, no, 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 it's depersonalization. Don't even, no, it's not that. It's not that. But slowly I started reading up on it and comparing my journals to what I was reading about it. And I went on YouTube. I was watching some videos, um, particularly the video of I don't he likes cassette players, and he did a video on Asperger's, and I watched it, and it was just like that was me. The way he moves, the way he talks, that was me. So I started buying books, and the first one I bought was Tony Attwood's Complete Guide to Asperger's Syndrome, and things took off. It was so revelatory, and I was cautious. I was cautious to take this up just because of my past, just because of how I can delve into something. But then I was thinking that this even accounted for my obsessions of trying to be understood and researching Google for hours on end. It made me see outside of the system. So some of the stuff I was even reluctant to talk about were indirectly being supported by what I was reading in the books. And eventually there was no denying it. Just things started making so much sense. And I was in fourth year of university at this time, and my grades plummeted, just went down. I was in university. I was in pharmacology and biomedical science because I wanted to understand myself. I didn't know it back then, but I wanted to understand myself through, biochemistry in the brain. So it was basically me going to university in biomed and pharmacology was basically for me to research myself. And as soon as I had that diagnosis, as soon as I started reading books and ordering them to my house up at school, and spending hours and hours on the subject, my grades plummeted. So not only because I was spending disproportionate amounts of time reading about it, but also because now here I had a very clear answer. And now biomedical science and pharmacology is obsolete because now I found something finally that explains me much, much clearer than anything I could read in a pharmacology textbook. Anything that, reading about psychotropic and hallucinogenic drugs and whatever else I was interested in at that point. So after that, things took off. Um, so yeah, that's basically how I got diagnosed and my mental health medical history. There are a couple of other things like going to the hospital for balance tests and getting an MRI of my brain. So the part that bothers me and why I want to go back to that hospital record is because they were showing me the MRI of my brain, and they found something. It wasn't like a mental. It wasn't a tumor or anything dangerous, but they found a structural difference between my brain and someone else. And your average person. They showed it to me and they circled that part. I was thinking it's the ventricles, the lateral ventricles, because he said something was enlarged. But enlarged lateral ventricles aren't good. It's a sign of schizophrenia and a whole bunch of other illnesses that I don't exhibit. So I don't think it was the ventricles. It was something else, but something was enlarged. Um, so yeah, there are interesting tidbits like that from my life. I'm curious. I'm curious about that MRI scan. I want to. I almost want to take one now and see if there's anything that they could pinpoint difference. Um, but research on that is definitely up and coming in terms of diagnosing something through MRI means. Certainly, some things can be diagnosed, like schizophrenic, the severe stages of schizophrenia, but a lot of other things are somewhat more ambiguous to diagnose. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. So yeah, that's basically my full story. And after the diagnosis, my channel took off. I started making videos, and those videos were just a good example of me analyzing my past and where things went after the diagnosis. And I did a presentation on sensory overload in front of parents who have kids on the spectrum. And I hope to do some speeches and public presentations. The thing is that my social anxiety is basically completely absent during that time. It's very strange. I'm excited to talk about these things. I want to be an advocate, and I want to do more public speaking. It's just the start right now, and I'm deciding which path I want to go on. But for me, I think doing some autism spectrum research is the gift that kind of keeps on giving. It's something that I don't think I'll get bored of, because it's just, I'm living it. Every day I'm learning more and more about it. It's it's such a topic that is so so central to me that it's nothing that I'm never going to lose interest in it ever. I can't. There's always something going to be enlightening around the corner. New research. I'm always looking up new books. Yeah, okay, so that's about it. Update on the Effexor. I notice it's doing something to me. I'm a lot more confident in the videos right now. Sorry, I'm not staring at the camera. I still find staring at the camera something arduous. I like looking around elsewhere, not just at a single point. And yeah, but the Effexor's definitely helped me adapt to social situations. I noticed that my facial expressions are a lot more vivid. I have more control over my anxiety and my persona. It's almost like what alcohol does to me. I find alcohol makes me act a lot easier. It makes it much easier. I don't like drinking so much, but Effexor is kind of like a clean alcohol. It makes me, there's kind of a lowering of inhibitions, not to a crazy degree, but it's definitely improved my presence. I don't know if this is an artificial presence. It's certainly new. I've never acted like this before. So you could in some way say the Effexor is actually changing me, because I'm not usually like this. Changing me for the better, possibly. It hasn't touched my interests or anything I would consider damaging, to my personality if it had changed them. Anyway, that's all I can think about. Thanks for watching.